Yeah. Oh well, you ready?
Yes.
Excellent. Cool. So here we are in a wood just outside of Exeter. What's it called?
Percy Watley Wood.
Percy
I hope
Watley
I've
Wood.
said that right. I'm not sure how the locals would say it.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be good to know, wouldn't it?
Yes.
So, yeah. So Katy Cawkwell. This is Katy Cawkwell.
Hello.
I've agreed to meet you in the woods to have a little chat about storytelling, and so I'd love to know, what got you into storytelling.
Yes, sure. So I was lucky enough to hear some wonderful storytellers when I was still a teenager. So age 13, I got taken to hear Hugh Lupton, Sally Pond Clayton, Ben Haggerty. I mean, you couldn't get a much better introduction really to storytelling than that. So that, I can still really remember those stories I heard as teenagers. So that, firmly lodged the idea of storytelling in my mind.
Yeah.
And at school, I was very into acting and performing. So that side was coming through for me. And then it was at university I really started having a go myself and went on a few workshops and courses and set up a little university storytelling circle where we were all the blind leading the blind, really. None of us knew what we were doing, but we had fun doing it and having a go together. And then in parallel to that, I'd always been part of an organisation where we went camping in the wild and gathered in the evenings around campfires, and that seemed a very natural place to start having a go at telling stories, and that's still one of my favourite places to tell stories. So, yeah, that's how it started for me, really.
Cool. And I just got the sense that it's still very bodily in you, those memories of listening to storytellers, and I think that's how people get the bug in a way, is by experiencing another storyteller and going, wow, that's, maybe I could do a bit of that, or that's awesome, and I won't do any of that. But I think those of us that are trying to become storytellers have that kind of awakening experience of some sort, and then we have little hurdles and bits and bobs that are like tricky. Or did you have any sort of things that were like particular hurdles in your early stages?
Yes, I mean I do remember very early on wanting to have a go, and thinking the way to do it was to write a script and try and learn it. So that's what I tried to do, and I was really struggling with that as an approach. And then I really remember going to a workshop and learning this technique which many storytellers use of this visualization of the story, and then trusting that the words will come if you can see the story. And this was just mind-blowing, and it just made all the difference to me, and there was this completely other way of working, which I've been sort of working on ever since. I mean, it's a journey you spend your whole life working on, isn't it? That kind of immersion in a story and then finding a way to tell it, to convey it. But I think that was the great, early breakthrough that I was so focused on the words and trying to memorise them, and then realised it was about sort of being with the story and seeing it, and that was the way through. Yeah,
I can relate to that from the point of view of that stories were originally orally told, and then they were written down, whereas now we sort of often try and take the stories off the page and then retell them. So there's a sort of reversal going on of some of the stories. Another question is the role of storytelling to bring about healing and balance. So I know that in order for environmental problems or issues to be solved, I think humans have got to sort of solve our own problems internally, as well as with our relationship with nature. But how do you see storytelling as helping with that whole basket of environmental awareness and environmental balancing our relationship with the planet?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's such a huge question, isn't it? I feel,
sorry.
I feel really unqualified in a way. But from my little kind of experience of that, I think, one really specific thing I feel I've encountered with using storytelling outdoors is how how an old story can give a kind of another layer of meaning and awareness to a place or a landscape. So if you're sharing a story in a place, how things, as you walk along, that stone suddenly becomes the blacksmith's anvil, or the river becomes the river in the story, or the crag becomes the castle. And I've had several experiences where the landscape and the story seem to serendipitously just fit together, flow together, and that's a great experience. And I've had the experience of that, listening to people do that as well in places. And I think that gives you another way of connecting with a place and feeling deep love for a place, to have that other layer of meaning layered across it. And story can be a very powerful way of doing that. And with children as well, they will remember, that place where you told that story. So it's another way of giving people of all ages a connection with the place. And I think from that comes a desire to look after it. And so I think that there's a role for storytelling there.
Definitely.
I think perhaps even more broadly, these old stories give us a connection with our ancestors and with this sense of humans as a species, and the thousands of years we've been on this earth, as you say, way before writing or the modern world. So when you say once there was a hunter, maybe that speaks to the little bit in all of our DNA somewhere where we were all once hunters, and that was a matter of survival. So I feel there's something important there in reminding us of our connection with the whole of our human history, and maybe a little remnant of passing something on to who knows what our future generations will need to take from that to survive, to live on the earth. So I feel there's some role there for story and storytelling.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, well, just coming here today brings a curiosity about this place, and also a sort of a gratitude for Percy, who might have planted maybe not these trees here, but the ones that we walked through to get here, which are slightly younger. And I'm just wondering about the story of how this wood came to be. And when we come to a place and try and tune into the story, then there's the story of the land that we're walking through, and that's always bringing to mind, I think, some of the stories that we've heard, as children or as grown-ups too. It kind of helps us, as you say, key into the landscape and care for it in a way. And then I suppose there were some myths or stories that are very connected to a particular place. I've done quite a lot of work with the Welsh mythology, the Mabinogion, and some of those stories have got very specific connections to specific places, and that that gives people a different sort of sense of the importance of these stories, and therefore those places connected with them. Absolutely. And tell me a little bit about where you tell stories nowadays, and also then how can people get in touch with you as well?
Yes. Part of what I love about making a living as a storyteller is that every week is completely different. So my work's very varied, but I suppose the main places I often find myself in are schools, telling stories in schools, creating performances for adult audiences, so storytelling clubs or little theatres, art centres.
There's the one in Topsham, isn't there?
Yes. So I've been running storytelling performances in the Exeter area, Topsham and Exeter, trying to bring kind of the best of UK storytelling to this area, which has been great fun. I really enjoyed getting to know people through doing that. And the other thing that's come out of that in the last couple of years, because I haven't been in Devon much longer than that, is running storytelling workshops down here. And I've got a lovely monthly group going of people learning storytelling, and actually that's been wonderful to have to, because for the first time I'm really having to think about, well, what is it that I do and how can I teach that, which I found a really fascinating process. So and I have occasionally over the years done little bits of storytelling in organisations and businesses and that kind of setting, and museums and anyone that wants storytelling. And that's a very wide variety sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it takes you into weird and wonderful places, and I'm very grateful for that variety.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of, you get to, especially around the fire. I mean, in a way, that's one of my favourite places for telling stories. So, yeah, to round off, do you have a tip or a trick that you could pass on to budding storytellers to sort of help them with their, taking the first few steps of telling stories to audiences?
Yes,
Does anything come to mind?
Well, you've probably heard this before, but I still think the central thing is to really try and immerse yourself in the world of the story, to see it as if you're actually there, like a ghost moving through the story, and then when you come to tell it, to try and have one foot in the world of the story and one foot in the world of your audience, and and you're the bridge, the communicator between these two, and to bring the one to the other and the other to the one. So yeah, that would be my tip, really.
Awesome. Yes, in a way, storytellers are. We're sort of on this bridge between two worlds. I hadn't quite seen that one as a standing there as you're telling, because we are right there in one place, but we're also in another place.
Yes.
So from this place here to the woods to that place over there, thank you very much for watching, and thank you, Katy, very much for
it's a pleasure.
sharing a moment in the woods to talk about the craft of storytelling. Thank you very much. Bye for now.